2022. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Nobre.
As presented.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, 3.1, June 6, 2022, regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
The June 6th, 2022, regular council meeting minutes being approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Any errors or omissions? Council? Staff? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. 3.2, June 6, 2022, special meeting of council minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Lehman.
That the June 6, 2022 special council meeting of council minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Any errors or omissions, council? Staff? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. 3.3, June 13th, 2022, special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Nobre.
As presented.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Any errors or omissions? Staff?
No.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. 3.4, June 16th, 2022, special meeting of council minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Nobre.
As presented.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. Any errors or omissions, council? Staff? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff? Thank you. Okay, we were to have a delegation by the Tumbler Children's Center Society, but unfortunately they were unavailable to attend this evening, so we will postpone that. So we'll move on to consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Lehman.
And all items on the July 4th, 2022 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Does council wish to lift 7.2? Did you say yes?
I think so.
For discussion?
Yes.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Lehman.
So we applied for intervenor status, but we still end up with I think a significant increase. But I don't know what, if we have any recourse or what we can do. I think it was approved, so I don't think there's much we can do. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I agree. It's very unfortunate. I did have a meeting with with PNG's new community relations person, and at that time they had seemed quite confident that this cost change was going to go through, but they were talking about options to help alleviate possibly next year's. And one of the options was to amalgamate the entire amalgamate all different services throughout the Northwest and Northeast, especially focusing on Northeast. Currently, we pay the cost for it to be delivered to us, whereas if it could be blended with all of the Northeast, it could decrease our service charges to some degree. So I think it's certainly worth another conversation there to see if we can petition for that amalgamation if possible. Councillor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Maybe we can get an update from staff on a couple of action items we had in regards to contacting BCUC to allow other operators, and if we have reached out to other operators to see if they'd be willing to operate in our region. I understand staff is there's only limited time in the day, but if there's an update or anything.
Mrs. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We haven't reached out to other operators. It is on our action list, so it's not lost, so it's there. Something that we can do to get more bodies in the offices.
Okay. Any other further comments, questions? Okay. Moving on to new business, 9.1, Fleet Operations Standard Policy PW8, forwarded from Policies and Priorities meeting June 12th, 2022 for adoption. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
The council adopts the proposed changes to PW8 Fleet Operations Policy.
Seconder, Councilor Kirby, discussion. Councilor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just find it odd that people running equipment aren't tasked with greasing whatever equipment they're running, because I think anywhere else that you go, if you're, you do your walk around before and you check, and even if you allow 15 minutes at the end of the day in order to grease the machine so that they're done, because it seems like they're relying on the mechanics to do it for them, but to me, it's ludicrous, because it's just to rely on somebody else to do it and then hope that they do it, to me, is wrong. Greasing is important for the maintenance of all the equipment. And I don't think it's a big task for somebody to, for somebody to be asked to do that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's where this policy is trying to come online as well. Councillor Howell?
Yeah, I just got one comment there about passengers in vehicles. We had an issue in the past with non-DTR employees riding around in vehicles, and we weren't sure if we had insurance coverage or liability coverage if people were riding around in a vehicle. Having to do with contractors coming from the golf course, I believe is where it came in from. But do we have any wordage or anything from staff to talk about passengers in DTR vehicles that are not employees of the DTR?
Ms. Torval?
I'm going to ask Chief Curry if he could speak to that. Chief Curry?
Mr. Mayor, Council, what Councillor Howe is talking about is absolutely correct. There was some concern that we had non-DTR employees that were riding around in vehicles previously. Where the liability comes into is who's operating these vehicles. You can have passengers that are, if they're contractors of the district or they're consultants thereof, they can be riding, but operators of our vehicles have to be district employees. So there's a section in the policy that talks about passengers, but it doesn't go on to say that we can't have passengers that aren't DTR employees. It says that it's supposed to be for business use. So if we're talking about driving to the golf course, we're taking a consultant, that's fine as long as our employees are operating the vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Did you catch all that, Councillor Howell? Were you able to hear Chief Curry?
Yeah, I did, and I just think that that there should be something in writing in there that says that it is okay for people that are not employees of the DTR to ride around in the vehicles, and this is just because it could come up again, and you don't have any wording in there that says that it is okay, right?
Ms. Torval?
Yes, we can follow up.
So Mr. Mayor and Council, so there's another section that talks about district employees only. It's in the policy, only properly licensed district and Tumbler Ridge employees are permitted to operate. When it comes to passengers, we don't want to make it finite to say that it is or isn't, but if we say that it's not, it effectively is permitted in the policy. So it doesn't have to have language. If council so chooses that they wish to have something to say that we can have passengers, we can certainly put that in. But at this time, it doesn't require it, unless you want to say it doesn't, passengers aren't permitted, is what we're looking at.
Okay, follow-up, Councillor?
No, I mean, I'm okay with anybody else driving in district vehicles, you know, provided our insurance and liability and all that is going to be okay. Fully understand that they can't drive the vehicle, I get that, but you know, as long as it's recorded here tonight that it is okay for us to have people in the vehicles that aren't DTR employees, then you know, at least it's recorded in this meeting. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried, thank you. 9.2, Alcohol Controlled Drug and Medication Policy HR 8, forwarded from Policies and Priorities Meeting June 13th, 2022 for adoption. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
The council adopts the proposed alcohol, controlled drugs, and medication policy, HR 8.
Seconder. Councillor Kirby, discussion. Councillor Howell.
Has our HR department reviewed this document?
Ms. Torval.
Yes, our HR department has, HR manager has reviewed this document as well.
Follow-up.
Section 6.1 and 6.2, the reference to post-incident testing, and there is no reference to alcohol testing in there. It says only a drug test. Is that by nature, or is this a miss?
Ms. Torval.
Sorry, which section?
Page 44 of 69, 6.1, 6.2.
This section applies to pre-employment,
Yes.
for pre-employment testing.
Wouldn't alcohol be included in that as well? Not so much?
Not so much, no. We don't.
Okay. Follow-up, Councillor Howell.
So you can come to the DTR for pre-employment screening, impaired, and that's okay, but as long as you're not doing drugs, we'll hire you. Usually these are A&D tests, right? Alcohol and drug tests. I just find it funny that there's no reference to alcohol for pre-employment screening.
Ms. Torval.
Mayor and Council, so this language was taken from what is best practice across a few different industries and municipalities. So when you're looking at the drug test versus alcohol, typically somebody right now is going to have to drive to wherever. They're going to have to go and undertake this drug test. So for us to say if it's alcohol, it's very point in use. The aim of this is to actually see the drugs that are going to be in your system for a longer period of time as opposed to alcohol at the time. So it becomes that risk-benefit type of one-on-one case kind of situation where we can't discriminate against somebody who has that type of an issue or anything. We can't even identify it, but we can look at a trend. So if somebody has used drugs, let's say for a significant amount of time, whether it be marijuana or anything else, it's going to be retained in their system. So that's the intention behind this, not looking at point in time. Are they impaired at the time? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for that trend.
Follow-up, Councillor Howell.
Yes, sorry, I just don't agree with what Mr. Curry is saying there. To me, this is a level of screening that you do for prospective employees. If they can't show up to an interview dressed properly, if they can't show up to an interview and be able to answer questions by looking in the eyes, if they can't show up to an interview not impaired, you don't hire them. So to me, I just can't vote in favor of this the way that it sits, and I'll be voting against it tonight.
Okay. Did you want to bring forward an amendment by way of a motion?
I would suggest that we send it back to staff to relook at it, to make sure that this is the correct way to be. I mean, every other place I've ever worked at, you have to do an A&D test. you know, the local coal mines, I mean, even to go work on their job sites, you have to do, even if you don't work for them, just to work on their job sites, you have to have a pre-employment drug and alcohol test. So it just seems a little strange that the DTR doesn't require them, and I think it's a miss myself. I think we're always so concerned about as soon as someone says human rights, we all throw our hands up and just say, oh yeah, human rights, we can't do anything, we definitely gotta just go with the flow here. But to me, the rest of the world isn't doing it this way, and I don't know why we would.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbert.
Thank you, Member Bertrand. As it stands, I believe the policy was kind of based on legal opinion, and in our report, it says under the legal considerations that you know, in unionized environment, it's, you know, we need to be careful when we're asking for drug and alcohol testing, when we're asking for it, because it could be used as discrimination, like the chief said. So I think I understand what Councillor Howell has to say. I mean, maybe other industry does it. They're non-unionized environments, and I would prefer to take legal opinion versus practices in industry to guide ourselves. So, you know, I think Chief Curry's got the handle on it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Torval, on 6.1, 6.2, within those drug tests, would alcohol be recognized in the results?
I am not entirely sure, Chief Clerk, do you think?
Mayor and Council, no, alcohol will not show up in an 8-panel screen for anything. Again, it is based on legal perspective for this. We're a little bit unique in the fact that we don't require, so let's use the example that Councillor Howe used of going onto a mine site, for example. Quite often they'll do their drug and alcohol site screenings right at site. They have everything to do that. We're a little bit different. We have drug and alcohol that happens after somebody's actually completed the interview, they've gone through the entire process, and then they have to provide a panel afterwards. So we've already done the interview section stage of it. We're now just trying to vet that they are in that safety sensitive positions that's in the appendix, that they meet that, they have a clean or satisfactory drug and alcohol screen. What section 6.2 talks about is things like marijuana. So the use of marijuana will show up in a talk screen under a drug panel, but it is at the sole discretion of the district whether we still move forward with the hiring process at that point.
Okay, follow-up, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just like a little bit of understanding, Chief Curry keeps mentioning marijuana as like an indicator for us not hiring somebody. Are we, from what I understand, marijuana is legal now. How does that interact with our hiring policies and stuff like that? Like, yeah, can you elaborate a little more on that? Like, yeah.
Ms. Torval?
Mayor and Council, so you're 100% right, Councilor Norbert, marijuana is legal. It was legalized in 2017, I believe, or 18. So it will come up in a panel. It's still tested for in an 8-drug panel. Typically, that's what the industry uses. Tests for 8 different drugs, ranging from marijuana to methamphetamines and everything in between. So it is something that we're looking at. We want to make sure that we don't have impairment point of, essentially during an incident is what we're looking for. So in a pre-employment, the fact that you used or that it comes positive isn't an automatic you're done in the hiring process, but it can be a contributing factor based on multiple other things that maybe you have something else that comes out of the talk screen, right? So it's not an automatic you're done as soon as it comes back positive.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howe, did you have something there?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay.
I'm still opposed to it the way it stands.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, Councillor Majinski and Councillor Howell recorded. Thank you. Carried. (9.3) District to Tumbler Ridge Scholarship Policy EO10 Forwarded from Policies and Priorities meeting June 12th, 2022. Recommendation, please. Councillor Lehman.
That council adopts the changes to the District of Tumbler Ridge Scholarship Policy EO10.
Seconder. Councillor Kirby. Discussion. Councillor Howe.
Yeah, I'm just not crazy about the scoring matrix at the end of it, that the selection criteria is 40% based on community involvement, volunteering, and 30% on transcript grades. I like work experience and references. I think those are appropriately weighted percentages, but I think your transcripts and grades are certainly more important than even your community involvement and volunteering.
Okay. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of like the idea of having the higher percentage of the community involvement and volunteering, especially if we're wanting to retain future nurses or healthcare professionals into our community. Maybe this shows that they're invested in the community and they like to stick around longer if they do have a lot of volunteering time here, they have close ties to the community. So the weighting of it as it stands, I kind of like it, but I definitely, when I would like to make a decision, I definitely follow higher grades for sure as a preference myself. But if we're looking to retain different aspects into our community, new people, I think 40% is reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. You know, I like what Councillor Majinski has to say, because community involvement, volunteering, that's effort, right? Grades, some people can fly through high school. They're just excellent students, right? And I know some students that have graduated this year, their grades may not have been top notch like some others, but I'll tell you, they are super involved and they try really hard. And so I like this. Maybe it's a little more effort based versus results based. Yeah, I would like to see a little bit in our scoring matrix, maybe down the road, of we weigh what industry they're moving into. Right? Like I would like to see us use these scholarships as trying to guide our students into careers that we need in the north, right? Nursing, mechanics, heavy duty mechanics, you know, stuff like that. Teachers, but as it stands, this is still fine.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Kirkhalka.
Yeah, so Councilor Ray makes a comment there, and to me, it captures healthcare at the very bottom that special consideration will be given to students. Maybe we need to add those other ones. Add it now instead of passing this through, and then all of a sudden people send us in their application, go through it, and then we start talking about it. At least if it's in here under special consideration, it's already marked there. So we can use that as that tool, or the next council can use that as a tool when they're going through this. Instead of waiting to do it, add it now, and then it's there when we use it.
I agree. You know, in the bottom where it says special consideration, that really is subjective as well. It's not anything that you can put a number to. Whereas if we included a whole other row with a percentage in it, then it's not subjective. It's got a number attached to it. We can weight it accordingly. I agree, Councillor Howe. I think the 40% for the community involvement is a little bit high, especially considering it's higher than transcript grades. I think we could possibly split that 40% up with a couple other categories, possibly. Councillor Kirby, did you have something?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think it just gets crazy when we keep adding and taking away and looking at percentages. You know, for kids to get through to graduation is just an achievement in its own. If we start adding every field of employment onto the bottom, we do healthcare scholarships anyway. I think through our own voice as council and the community, we let students know where the priorities are, and hopefully they pick those fields that we need. I think 40% of community involvement and volunteering is great.
Because there's kids out there that Councillor Norwood already said is not the grade A student. There's a lot of average students. Average isn't, just because your mark is average doesn't mean that you're an average person either. So I like the 40% where it is. Work experience, some kids don't have the opportunity to have work experience. I could say, you know, you could take that out and add it somewhere else. I don't know. But I mean, adding these other fields, I think it just is too much. I'd sooner just say secondary, I'd sooner read special consideration to students pursuing post-secondary and children who are District of Tumbler Ridge employees, period. We're changing it.
Okay, Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Norby was talking about heavy-duty mechanics and electricians or whatever, but those aren't going on to universities, those are going to trade schools, so, and that's usually in apprenticeship, so I don't think a scholarship would really come into play there, because you're not going to a post-secondary institution.
Yeah, for trades, yeah. The
You-
trade school in Dawson is post-secondary.
But it,
They would still need financial assistance if they were, you know, those courses aren't cheap either.
no, but
Councillor Howe, then Majinski, then Norbury?
Yeah, I mean, just to Councillor Lehman's point there, trade school, absolutely, there's costs in housing, tools, toolboxes. My son's going through an apprenticeship right now, and he's already put like $5,000-6,000 in tools. Every paycheck that he's making is going into tools right now. But just back to the weighting on the matrix, one thing that I definitely do not like is I do not like where it says, and who are children of District of Tumbler Ridge employees. I don't think that this is not the opportunity for us to give money to children who are district employees. This is not the business that we are in. We're spending tax dollars, taxpayers' monies. So these should be entitled to any student who goes to high school. If you were looking to do students of employees, that would be more in line with something that QP would be doing, not us as counselors. I think healthcare has always been a priority. We've talked about doing things to try to up the ante. In this scholarship application, I think I see something in here that says we can vary it up to 5 scholarships for $5,000 per year. That's $25,000 in scholarships. That's pretty open-ended to go from where we were with $1,000 a year to $25,000. If I'm reading that correctly, and if I am, I would certainly want to make sure that our scoring matrix is going towards students who are showing exceptional grades, because they are the ones that are most likely to succeed with the money that you're going to give. Those are the ones that they might be volunteering and community support, which is great for a community and great for other types of scholarships, but for something in healthcare, the people that are passing those are the people with good grades and that stick at it and show that they can study. You don't get credits for volunteering and community involvement when you get a degree. You have to pass the courses. So that's why I think the scoring matrix should be community involvement, volunteering 20%, and an additional 20% put in there for students going into post-secondary education in the field of healthcare. So 2020, 30, 2010.
Okay, thank you. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Horrible, but I believe Councillor Howell might be mistaken on the amount. It says procedure number 1, up to 5 scholarships will be awarded per year for a total value of $5,000. So each scholarship is $1,000, is that correct, for a total of $5,000 per year?
It can be up to 5 scholarships, with the total being 5,000, and it would be up to council to decide how they want to
Divvy out the
divvy out the
5,000.
5,000.
It's not 25,000 per year.
5,000, no.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify that to make sure that that's a significant increase from 1,000 to 25 for sure. I do agree with you, Councillor Howell. I thought we had discuss the children of District of Tumbler Ridge employees given special consideration, and I'm certainly not in favor of that. I think that opens a door to not only possible conflict, well, perceived conflicts to some degree, but it also opens a door to other possible conflicts, in my opinion. So I'd like to move an amendment that we strike and or who are children of District of Tumbler Ridge employees from the policy. Seconder, Councillor Lehman, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any other amendments? Councillor Majinski?
One other possibility here in the scoring matrix is to combine work experience and references. Generally, your references are going to come from your work experience or family, friends, or members of your family in those certain trades, right? So, you know, if you combine those, that's 30%, and most likely that's where they're going to get their work experience, and that's when they're going to get their reference letter from. So I'd like to see that maybe combined, and then we open up to have another 20% going towards the ECEs, healthcare, etc.
Field of study. Okay, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Member Bertrand. I did have a couple comments to Councillor Lehman. So I was just speaking with somebody today about their son potentially getting into heavy-duty mechanics. One route is the apprenticeship route, where they're going to work for whomever and they send them through. The other opportunity is actually going to heavy-duty mechanic school. Like he'd actually go to a school and he would learn it that way. So there's definitely there can be, depending on which way you go, there can be some cost there. I think Councillor Howe pointed that out as well. With the references, maybe Councillor Kukelka could probably add to this as well, but I found a lot of references are teachers. People that don't work for, but teachers that have instructed them. I see a lot of references from high school teachers. So I don't know if there's quite as much crossover there as well. Yeah. So yeah, I would like to add a little more to special considerations. Like we have schooling in the field of healthcare. What about or other required professions in Tumbler Ridge? Okay. Too broad?
Possibly. Councillor Howell and Majinski.
I was going to put a motion on the floor here that we change the scoring matrix, particularly community involvement volunteering, back to 20% and include a category that has to do with special consideration for in the field of healthcare for its 20%.
Seconder on the amendment. Councillor Kukelka, discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. At this time, I don't think I'm prepared to agree to that. I think, again, community involvement plays a big part in my mind. If we're going into this direction, maybe we should throw this back at a P&P. Seems like we do have a lot of discussion we want to have on it. We won't be making a decision on scholarships for another quite some time now. So rather than make stuff on the fly, we can sit on it, chew on it a little bit, because, yeah.
I completely agree. I think the scoring matrix is, it's a tool that can really help make this decision for council. And I wasn't involved in the previous one, but I could see it was an incredibly difficult decision to be made. So, the more specific I think the scoring matrix is, I think it can certainly help guide council in the best decision making possible. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. If you've sat in on these, when you're looking at the scholarships, the process isn't always exactly as stated. You've got all these local kids that you want to give everybody a scholarship. I think pinning down occupations and where you're going to go, half of the kids get into school, they start in arts and science, they don't even know what they're doing yet. I think we're putting more kind of, stress on them. Any kid that actually writes the application, I think is great. How many graduates you have to, how many scholarship applicants you have. I think we've got a good start here, and if anything, you could put work experience and references to 20% and add the other 10, combine those, add the other 10 to transcripts and grades, make them both 40%, because both are, I think, equally important, and not add any more. I think we've got it to the point. I think sending this back to staff, taking more time with it is non-productive. I think we've got a good document here.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Majinski?
Yeah, and back to the references and the grades, the transcripts. If a teacher so wishes to add a reference in the transcripts and the grades, part of it, I can see that, but as a reference, when I hear the word reference, it's generally to work experience and not just academics in school. So that's why I think these two should be combined, the work experience and references, because it's real world work, not from what they've portrayed in school. This is the next step, going from school out to the workforce.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Councillor Kirkowka?
I think Councilor Nobre has already mentioned it, but I think that we should just defer this and send it back to P&P for council discussion. Instead of starting to change the scoring matrix, and I just heard Councillor Majinski talking about adding the two work experience and references together. Councillor Curry mentioned that. I think that gives us a chance to actually talk about it instead of trying to do it
Yeah, I
on the
agree.
fly tonight.
I agree. We do have an amendment on the floor, so I think we should call that to question here. Call a question on the amendment. All in favor?
In favor?
Opposed?
4-3.
Yep, okay, that was defeated. Thank you. Councillor Nobre?
I'll make a motion to move District of Tumbler Ridge Scholarship Policy EO-10 to an upcoming Policies and Priorities Committee meeting.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski, discussion? Councillor Kirby?
I really think that that's a waste of council's time, that we're so close. It's just a matter of percentages. I would vote to keep it the same then and move on.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Nobre?
Thank you, Member. And just to Councillor Kirby, I mean, I can respect your stance, but I think it sounds like Council wants to get a little more, so that's why I'm making the suggestion.
Okay. Councillor Howell?
Is that, you say me there, Keith?
Yeah, Councillor Howell.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say. Yeah, and just one more thing for us to consider here as well. I was at the scholarship portion of the graduation here, and the community forest actually gave out 3 scholarships of $2,000 each. So the community forest gave out $6,000, and the DTR gave out $1,000. So I thought that was kind of a bit of a miss that we're so different on how much we're each giving out. So I think we need to definitely look at if we're going to bring this to a P&P, maybe the amounts of the values that we're doing need to be looked at as an increased amount, but also more than 1 year. I don't see there anything wrong with somebody who wanted to go into nursing or doctor or something like that and say we're willing to do, $2,000 a year, provided they continue into that scholarship. Might even be an opportunity to discuss at a P&P that sweetens the pot a little bit for post-secondary education.
Yeah, certainly. Any other comments, questions? Call the question on the deferral. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed?
Carried, I do believe. Okay, thank you. (9.4) Rock Pit Gym Cost and Revenue Summary, report dated July 4th, 2022 from the Manager of Recreation regarding Rock Pit Gym Costs and Revenue Summary. Recommendation, please. Councillor Nobre?
Unless anybody wants to discuss it, I'll move for information.
Does any of council wish to discuss? Councillor Lehman?
Yeah,
Motion to discuss.
thank you, Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Lehman?
Just like 2021, 144,000, and I know it's giving memberships back and, cost of increasing materials and that, but we were closed for a good part of it, as far as I remember. And I don't understand why you have your membership, so if you just cancel your membership, instead of having it as a cost, it's kind of confusing because somebody wants their membership back, you give them the money back, you don't have that membership. So I'm just kind of curious how we get to 144,000.
Ms. Torval?
I'll ask Ms. Pittman to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yes, some of the costs were for refunds of memberships. Also, we had full-time staff when we were open, as well as we went from reusable cleaning supplies like wipes to disposable. Some people did just defer their memberships and hold on to them, but there were quite a few that needed them refunded. And we were open for a good majority of the year. There just were restrictions to who could use the facilities.
Okay, thank you. Follow up? So, Ms. Torval, can Ms. Pittman possibly give us somewhat of a summary of a breakdown of the increase of costs then, specifically, please?
Breakdown of costs.
Please?
Or just the 2021?
Yeah, the differences that we were seeing here, yeah. Like, I certainly understand the memberships were refunded, but there's a significant variance on the costs from year to year, and I'm just curious if you are aware of what those specifics might be.
So, like I said, some of it is for wages, having the full-time staff, so that's reflected. Also, the previous year we had 1 full-time staff, and last year we had 2 full-time staff prior to the audit. So benefits and pension as well, I guess, is included in that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Majinski, then Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Were some of these costs be incurred with repairs or new equipment? Or is it just in wages and cleaning supplies?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you.
Sorry, Councilor, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I'd just like to know if the costs include either repairs or new equipment as well, or is this just specifically on wages and cleaning supplies?
No, the costs reflect any materials or equipment repairs as well.
Follow up. Excuse me, follow up, Councillor?
Thank you.
Ms. Torval, has there been an increase in maintenance on the equipment recently?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Maybe to help out Ms. Pittman and staff, I know that when I was attending like over 2020, due to the restrictions, like you couldn't just walk into the gym anymore, right? They need to have somebody there physically checking your ID, your passports to make sure that you are not in, not out of current restrictions there are. So I believe there was a lot more staff there than previous, because I know moving in later in the year as restrictions ease, I know I noticed that there was not always like that person at the door. Like I remember there was always somebody there at the front door, and then it shifted into more of a cleaning maintenance role versus a regulatory role. So I mean, I would expect to see moving forward, it'll probably be much less.
Okay. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify for the revenue, that's just based on memberships? Is there also a fee for drop-in as well? Is there a...
Ms. Torval?
Yeah, so this revenue is for everything.
For everything?
Yeah.
follow-up? Councillor Howell?
Yeah, I just, it's a 150% increase from 2017 to 2021. A lot of that is being contributed to COVID, from having to have more employees. So I have two questions. First one is, has staff recouped this costs from the money the BC government set aside for COVID costs? And are we reducing the number of employees now in that position, and should see our costs go back to something similar to 2017, 2018, now that we don't have to have somebody sitting at the gym full time?
Ms. Torval?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So, yeah, we have reduced staff. It's not necessary to have as much staff as previously for the year. We have one summer student there and one full-time, one part-time, and one summer student currently.
So we are expecting costs to decrease from 21 to 22?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka?
Thank you, Your Worship. Guess my question would be, we talk about equipment, but when we talk about equipment, not repairs, but equipment in general, would that not be a capital cost, not under the cost of the weight room? Under capital in the budget?
Ms. Torval?
So this would be, sorry, Council, this would be for repairs, not new equipment.
Okay. And I believe Councillor Howe did ask whether or not any of these costs were recovered from the COVID-19 restart grant. Ms. Torval?
I am not able to answer that at this time, but I could find out for you and bring back an answer.
Yeah, that would be appreciated. I'm pretty sure we did recover those increase in costs. But yeah, I'd have to look back on the report.
Yes.
Councillor Kirkowka?
And I know you don't have it, and you only went up to 2021, and it makes sense why you would. What's 2022 looking in regards to memberships and active members? I mean, I just see it slowly decline well, I mean, obviously 2021 was the hardest hit year. But compared to registered members and active members, you see quite a big gap there. I'm just curious if we know what 2022 looks like.
Ms. Torval?
I'm sorry, we don't know that at this time.
Okay. Ms. Torval, would 2021 revenue numbers, did that include, was it appointment only for all 2021?
Yes.
So that likely would decrease the usage then, I would think. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to 9.5, Budget Variance Report as of June 20th, 2022. Report dated July 4th, 2022 from the Director of Finance, with the Budget Variance Report. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
Again, if no one's interested, we can move for information.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 9.6, Appointment of External Audit Services for 2022. Report dated July 4th, 2022 from the Director of Finance with the appointment of External Audit Services for 2022. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirkowka.
The council appoints Sandra Rose Bond Grill LLP for professional external audit service for 2022 and 2023 fiscal years.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Discussion. Councillor Norbury.
The only procedural question, and since we are waiving our purchasing policy, should that be a part of the motion? So direct awarding?
I'm kind of curious on this, Ms. Torval. Shouldn't the second part of that recommendation come first? Wouldn't we have to waive the policy first in order to direct award?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as it's together, like,
Well, each counselor has the option to make any recommendation that they wish, so I'm just wondering what we need to do here now.
Defeat it.
Defeat it and then,
Defer.
no, we can't defer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to defeat the recommendation to include the waiver of purchasing policy if that's what council wishes. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Defeated, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka?
Yeah, then we'll just start with the one, then the council waives purchasing policy TR-1 and direct awards external audit service to Santa Rose Mongrel LLP.
Should we add for 2022 or 2023?
Yeah, we'll do that.
That's okay?
For 2022 and 2020 fiscal years. We'll have to meet the other one.
That's right. Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Discussion? Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. So the price that they have in the last 3 years be reflected in the same going forward?
Ms. Torval?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 9.7, Geopark Revalidation Dignitary Dinner Sponsorship. A report dated July 4th, 2022 from the Director of Economic Development and Tourism requesting Council's consideration to sponsor the upcoming Geopark Revalidation Dignitary Dinner. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
I'm not going to suggest we consider. I'm going to recommend that we do sponsor. So I'm going to make the recommendation that council sponsor the UNESCO Global Geopark Revalidation Dinner.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Discussion. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Are we going to put a price, an amount on it up to $5,000 as previous years, or just leave it open?
Ms. Torval? Is there plans on capping this at a certain amount?
As was the last time, council made a recommendation to sponsor an event up to $5,000. So I was just leaving it up to council to see what their flavor was.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't a part of the previous one, so I wasn't aware there was a cap or anything, but it's certainly an option for an amendment. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, it's in the report, but I'll make the amendment that we cap it at the 5,000.
You mentioned it's in the report, but
Yeah,
just not
64
Background.
background information.
background.
In 2000.
The total cost wasn't $5,000, not top
It's
that
three.
turn, but it was quite a bit more.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Discussion, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Not to split hairs, but I mean, they only spent $3,000 in 2018. Inflation, I'd be concerned about potentially them missing what they might need for their dinner, just because costs have gone up quite a bit, right? And it's been 4 years. I'd be a little more comfortable at $7,500, and they're going to come in low. And just give them that little bit of wiggle room is my thought. I'd rather we just let them have all that they need to have a great dinner and do well on the revalidation.
Okay. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear from staff, but my understanding staff was well involved in regards to the organization of doing the funds weren't given to the Geopark back then, and I'm assuming they won't be done this time either. It'll be invoiced directly to the district of Tumbler.
Ms. Torval.
Yes, so the invoice will be, we wouldn't be giving them the $5,000. We would let them know that council has approved up to $5,000 as the motion now. The motion now stands. And so when their event is done, they would submit the invoice. If the dinner was, like say, $5,500, then as per council's motion, it's up to $5,000, so we would only reimburse them $5,000. That they would be responsible to pick up.
Setting a budget amount, basically. Okay. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, my things on that, if something does go over, they can always come back. I mean, to me, like, instead of giving it a high number and if we go way over it, better off to keep it at a cap. And I mean, there isn't that much inflation from 2018, so.
Except on beef.
And it's starting to come down.
Fine. Okay. Any other comments on the amendment? Questions? All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any more questions on the amended motion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Nine point eight, schedule of meetings. Any issues there, council? Ms. Torval, you had mentioned the policies and priorities meeting on July 11th. We are short-staffed and need to reschedule.
Yes, please, if council would consider doing that. You're short-staffed, support staff to run on technology. We don't have any. Majority of managers are away at this time. Checked in the schedule today and we don't have any reports or anything, so for next week, because we would be preparing the agenda like this week for next week, so there isn't anything in there as of yet. So if council would consider rescheduling for maybe the 18th or the 25th even,
Council?
or not.
Councilor Noble?
I'm fine with whatever. Staff wants 25th, give them more time, and that's fine, I guess. Let us know.
Councilor Majinski?
Ms. Torwell mentioned that there was nothing as of yet, so we potentially don't even need one on the 18th or 25th, so we could probably just hold out till the 8th.
Possibility. Ms. Torval?
And if there was something that came up that was, urgent, council could discuss it at the regular council meeting, because we could bring it on the agenda for the regular council meeting on the 2nd, I believe, of August.
Okay. Councilor Howell?
Yeah, so we're just talking about the P&P on the 8th.
On the 11th of July.
Oh, 11th of July. I thought we were talking about the August meeting. Okay, sorry.
Councilor Kirkowka?
Yeah, my thing is, whatever works for staff, but we also had a delegation that couldn't make the date tonight. Maybe it could come in on the 18th to the 25th. And there may be other stuff that comes up and push one thing off to the P&P that may be, I hate
Scholarship.
canceling these meetings and all of a sudden then we start overloading ourselves in August or in September. That's my only problem. We understand from staff side in regards to next week, being short-staffed and have management in a way. But to me, I think we should still be scheduling one. We talked earlier about a special meeting, so we can do that at the same night,
Possibly.
right? Instead of adding more and more, we try to set our schedules, staff try to set their schedules, and I understand why staff is saying this, and it was said when I did the agenda review with Ms. Torval, so it makes sense, but to me to cancel it and wait till August and then possibly, you mentioned tonight calling a special meeting, let's set the 18th or 25th and move forward.
Possibly. Ms. Torval, do you see any issues with staff vacancies on the 18th or the 25th?
For the 18th, I do have staff vacancies for them. It's possible I could have someone else trained up to take the minutes and to run the audio video. It is possible.
For the
For the
18th
18th.
or the 25th is
25th should be okay.
Councilor Howell?
I would suggest that we just push it off right until August myself. Give them an opportunity to get all the staff the time off and vacation that they need, and it gives them lots of time to prep for it. And if that means that we've got to have a really long meeting in August, then I would prefer to do that than continue to add more stuff to the staff when we don't have, 5 or 6 senior staff members as it is. So to me, I'm not expecting a whole pile to get done this summer the way things are working out here. So to me, I would just assume cancel the meeting, push it off to the next one. And if we had to have a special meeting, I guess we could call that if something came about.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Member Bertrand. I'd like us to move it to the 25th. And the reason why Councillor McCalkin is correct about the child care delegation, I'll go into a little bit in my councillor's business, but I believe they do have some time-sensitive stuff that we need to be talking about. It is a follow-up to our last one. I asked them to come to council as soon as possible because our schedules are limited, sooner rather than later. Hopefully they'll have the suggestions that I made available to us at our next one. So I'd like us to move, I'll make a motion that we move the July 11th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting to July 25th.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka. Any more discussion? Councillor Majinski.
I'm not in favor of it, as Ms. Torvell stated, that there's nothing other than the delegation, and we have 3 other openings in August that they can come in as well. 15th, 22nd, and 29th. And we have a meeting on the 2nd, so we could easily have another meeting in August, late August, depending on how time sensitive this delegation is, but they're supposed to be here tonight.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So just in terms of how we can get things done, right? If they come in, so they came in tonight, they gave us information, we don't make any decisions, right? We have to think about it, it takes time. Having an earlier meeting so they can discuss at it, they can come to us with their ask, what they need from us, and then we sit on it, we chew on it, right? We can't make a decision. So if we do that, and we know the issue of childcare is dire right now, so if we don't see them until the 2nd, we don't make a decision until our next regular council meeting in September and the Children's Center is open.
Councillor Majinski.
We could also have them give us the handout for us to review for the 2nd prior to, so it gives us more time. And if we have any questions, we can have them ready for them.
Okay. Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed?
Carried. Thank you. Any notice of motions this evening? And councillor's business, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So I'll start with a quick one first with the South Peace Health Services Society. We had our AGM. We have a board of directors. We're pretty light on our board, so if anybody knows people in the healthcare profession that seem like they'd be a good fit for helping us finish the Boltry's house, as well as get into the discussion of doctor recruitment and retention for the region, that would be great. You can forward them along to me or Mayor Bumstead. We got another $50,000 grant from CNRL, and that pushes us across the finish line. Like the inside, we're getting close to putting up drywall. Mayor Dale is great as a chair. He's really helping us push it across the goal line. So, and I've agreed to stay on as VP, only because Dale Bumstead is president. So it's not a hard job.
Thank you for your service.
So childcare. Had a busy couple of weeks. So met with the Children's Center last week. No, I'll go back further. We met with somebody. I met with representatives from the School District 59 and the YMCA North Prince George region, and they handle everything in this region for YMCA services offered. I took them on a tour of the facilities and had a chat with Raylene down at the Children's Center and found out a lot about what YMCA does and what they potentially could be doing for us. And we got into some good discussions, and they're looking at multiple service deliveries for us in Tumbler Ridge. Through the Ministry, the childcare is moving into the Ministry of, is in the Ministry of Education. Excuse me, I'll slow down. So they are looking at before school and after school care to create that seamless day. I think we talked about it before, but they're looking at trying to offer that in the school, which makes perfect sense, right? So there's discussions with the Children's Center in that regard to potentially letting that go, allowing the YMCA or the school district to take that on, to allow the child care center to focus on 0 to whatever child care, like 0 to 5 child care, right? So, now, with that, YMCA does offer child care in Dawson Creek and Chetwynd. They offer infant and toddler child care in Chetwynd and Dawson Creek. And they could potentially be looking at that here. But with that, I think there are quite a few hoops for us to jump through. Some of those are already in motion. We met with the Children's Center Board, and I initiated that conversation between the YMCA and the Children's Center Board. What on their side do they need to create this, enact this going, right? Like, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn in advocating for the Children's Center in that they're looking for assistance, partnership, amalgamation, what have you. So that conversation has started, and the YMCA has started to ask questions from their side. What staffing do you have currently? What are their education? What are your numbers like? They're getting into the actual, so that's going to be provided to the YMCA, so then they can sort of come up with a game plan. Is it feasible? Is there potential there? It seems like there is. The other side of that with the YMCA, and I suggested to Lynette out of Prince George, come to council with your business case for what you need from us, because they want to assist Tumbler Ridge, but they also still need to have a business mindset in limiting their risk. So what do they need from us? Is it space? Do they have like a lease agreement for us? Is that an option? Come tell us that. There is concerns of, again, risk. So they may be looking at, if they're offering this to us, what can we do to make sure that it is not a lost venture on their side, right? So I left it with Lynette to come to council with what they need from us. So they're looking at potentially August to come talk to us. So from the child care side, I've mentioned that I sat in with their meeting. I recommended they come into council to talk to us about what their needs are. It's nice to talk about the YMCA and it's exciting, but at the same time, we don't know how real that is. That could be 6 months, that could be a year, it could be 2 years. We don't know how fast that can happen. So I suggested to the Children's Center, come into council, what do you need immediately? What would you need in September to operate and to offer 16 spots in childcare? Is there a potential there? Because again, I think we need to be looking at immediate, medium, and long-term solutions. So that's what I was hoping that they would provide us with tonight. But every member on that board is a working professional, right? Like they're working they're doing 7 on, 7 off, right? They're working quite a bit, and they're raising children. So they're going to be coming into what their potential needs are from us to be competitive. Right, like we had a discussion last time on, and Councillor Howell was the one who brought it up. And well, if we gave you some cash, if we infused you with funding, what would that look like? What's your plan for recouping so that we're not subsidizing you in terms of money? And so I expect them to be coming back with what that looks like for the next 2 years, and then the rationale and the business case why, right? Like, so why do you need this much money? How is it going to be allotted? And then what's your strategy for not always relying on the District Tumbler Ridge? So, yeah, welcome to take any questions. Busy couple of weeks, but this is a big thing we need to try and approach. So, trying to look at it from all angles.
Okay. So, without receiving any info about the delegation tonight and their presentation, I was under the impression that there was a proposal that the Children's Center was going to bring forward. Is that the proposal basically, is what they could do with more district money? Councillor Norbury?
I believe that was part of it. Yeah, so I reached out to some ECEs in the southern area of our province, so Kamloops, Okanagan, and realistically, money is a factor. The wages that they're receiving now are well below the recommended standards for ECEs. In 2020, there was a recommendation by ECEBC on what you should be paying your ECEs, and they're, $3, $4, $5 behind on everything. So, if we want to attract anybody to be an ECE here, we need to attract. So I thought they can come in and make that business case to us so that we can sit around and discuss it. I believe that is part of it. Everything, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that would be a part of it.
Okay, and just one other question. I believe I was told that their fees that they charge per child is drastically lower than the region as well. Is that correct, Councillor Nobre?
I can't say I know the specifics of their costs. I do know that because they receive subsidy through the government, they are limited on how they can adjust their fees. Because they receive such a large subsidy from the government, like the costs that they pass on to the individuals that use the center are low, but that's just because of the subsidies that they receive, right? Like if they move to the government's moving to that $10 a day daycare, right? So if that gets there, I think they're at about $20 a day now. So $500 a day, $500 a month, that's $20 a day.
But isn't that only for somebody that qualifies for that subsidy? Like not every child that goes there gets subsidized by the provincial government.
Correct.
So it is an application to see if the need is there to subsidize, correct? That's how I understand it anyway. But yeah, thank you very much for the extra effort in that regard. It certainly is a necessity that we need to try to figure out best case scenario and best way forward. So I also met with Lynette from the YMCA via Zoom, and yeah, there's certainly opportunities here for multiple different options. So it was nice to hear that. I wasn't aware that they were so involved in the Northeast all the way over to Vanderhoof. So yeah, it's a national organization that has got very good structure and seems to have quite a nice program there as well. Any other councillors' business? Okay. Question and answer period. Ms. Torval, have you received? Okay, thank you. Resolution to close meeting. I'll move that the July 4th, 2022 regular meeting of council be closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Section 91E and J as follows. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Seconder, Councillor Kirkauka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 10-minute recess, please. Trades? No.